because that's what he cares about. His ego, his money, his status. He is not thinking about you. Donald Trump sees power as nothing more than a means to his ends. He wants the middle class to pay the price for another huge tax cut that would mostly help him and his country club buddies. He doesn't care if he costs women their reproductive freedoms. It won't make a difference in his life. Most of all, Donald Trump wants us to think that this country is hopelessly divided between us and them. Between the, quote, real Americans who support him, of course, and the outsiders who don't. The enemies within. That because, what did I say about Boone? Vote! Because Donald Trump understands, and he's not wrong about this, that dividing people, making them angry, will boost his chances of being elected. It's not good for the country, but it might improve his odds. We saw it last night. I know nobody's going to boo now. All you're going to do is vote. Hold on a second. So the man holds this big rally at Madison Square Garden. And the warm-up speakers were saying we're trotting out and peddling the most racist, sexist, bigoted stereotypes. One guy called Puerto Rico, quote, an island of garbage. Now, these are fellow citizens he's talking about. Here in Philadelphia, they are your neighbors. They are your friends. They are your co-workers. Their kids go to school with your kids. These are Americans. They're people. And that is the reason why this election should not be close. It should be clear. Here's a good rule. If somebody does not respect you, if somebody does not see you as fellow citizens with equal claims to opportunity, to the pursuit of happiness, to the American dream, you should not vote for them. You should not expect them to make your life better. They will not help you make them. They will not help you pay the bills. They're not gonna work hard to make sure your kid gets a good education. They're not gonna help you with a down payment on a house. I mean, we have to reject the kind of politics of division and hatred that we saw represented. America's ready to turn the page. America's ready for a better story. Philadelphia, we are ready for a president.
Over in Michigan, where I mentioned Harris is, 1.7 million people have voted, a state where Biden won last time by about 150,000. Now, Harris is coming off a big cosign from Beyonce, who was basically one of the only cultural figures in America left who has a Taylor Swift level following. It was a big deal to get her cosign, and a bigger, larger deal to get her doing that rally this weekend. The Houston singer is known for her singing, for her dancing, for her R&B, for her lyrics, and even for her recent dabbling into the country space. She is known and beloved by many voting Americans, many people who are more into music than politics, and she told her followers very clearly with Harris that voting is a powerful tool.
For all the men and women in this room and watching around the country, we need you. Your voice has power and magnitude. Your vote is one of the most valuable tools, and we need you.
Men across America do not want to see their daughters and wives and sisters and mothers put at risk because their rights have been taken. I see the men here, and I thank you. The men of America don't want this.
That was just some of that powerful rally and the appeal. And you may recall we headed into the weekend covering these growing objections to the double standard in this race. It is a point that was raised, for example, by Charlemagne in criticizing CNN on their air. This narrative where Kamala Harris is pressed on policy details or word choice or her precise distinctions of what she would do differently from the Biden first term, which are, of course, fair questions. We've asked some of them in.
Believe it or not, people, I welcome migrants to the United States of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this. You know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Regarding the Puerto Rico comment, a senior advisor for the former president said, quote, "This joke does not reflect the views of President Trump." The former president did not directly respond to Hinchcliffe's remarks, but made light of some of the language he uses at his rallies.
And sometimes I'll use a little bit, not hard foul, but soft foul. We call it soft foul. But, you know, to emphasize something about somebody's capabilities or whatever I might be talking about. I'm not sure. Every once in a while you need a little bit of something, a little spice to juice them up a little bit.
Before heading to her first stop of the day, Harris paused to call out her opponent's campaign rhetoric as she works to showcase the differences between herself and Trump as part of her final pitch to voters.
He is focused and actually fixated on his grievances, on himself, and on dividing our country. And it is not in any way something that will strengthen the American family, the American worker.
The remarks from Trump's Madison Square Garden rally are reverberating across communities, in particular on Latino voters in the swing state of Pennsylvania, which has a large Puerto Rican population. Here's what one previously undecided voter said Monday when asked about how she made her final decision to vote for Harris.
Last 4 years, it was not the best, I would say, for the country. So that had me, I really, not sure which side to pick. And with the comments that happened yesterday, I finally said, no, I have to be in the right side of the history. I need to pick right thing, not only for me, for my family, and for my beloved Puerto Rico.
I'm joined now by CBS News political director Fin Gomez, who was at the Trump rally last night, and CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe, who's in Ann Arbor, Michigan, following the Harris campaign. Good evening to both of you, and thank you for being here. Fin, what is the Trump campaign saying about this?
Well, Lindsay, just a little while ago, I confirmed a report that was initially in the Bulwark online publication that said that the sources close to the campaign said that they received a pre-approved list of jokes. They did look at jokes of this comedian in question, and they vetted two questions. They say one that had very profane words about women, including one with the C word, and then also they say that the questions that this comedian utilized in the garden in the rally last night were not on the list, and they were ad-libbed. This is, of course, this is per source familiar of last night's rally, involved in last night's rally, but again, this is per this Trump source.
Yeah, no, the same was said by senior Trump advisor Brian Lanza to our Major Garrett just moments ago. Not the part about the expletive, that this comedian apparently intended to use to describe Harris. But Ed, how is the Harris campaign responding, both publicly and behind the scenes?
Well, even as the Trump campaign apparatus tries to separate itself from what was said, what the Harris campaign noticed overnight into this morning was how quickly this moment, this viral moment now, spread across the Puerto Rican and broader Latino diaspora and became part of the national conversation today as word of it and clips of it spread. There are indications, if you look at the data in Google Trends, that there was more searching done about this incident than there was in the hours after Taylor Swift announced her endorsement of Vice President Harris. Just to give you a sense of like recent campaign-related sign of viral moments, the campaign flagged that for us. We checked it out as well, and it appears that that gives you some sense of how quickly this was spreading. It has been turned into a campaign ad that is now set to be aired, mostly digitally, targeting Latino and specifically Puerto Rican communities. And ultimately, the campaign and Democrats who are tracking things for them agree where this is likely to have the most impact is with that voter you just played from Philadelphia. Philadelphia, Allentown, Harrisburg, there are pockets of Puerto Rican neighborhoods and communities in that area where thousands of votes are up for grabs. There was big concern among Democrats that Latino men, especially Puerto Rican men in Pennsylvania, would be among those breaking towards the former president, given his policies and his style. They now believe this may have helped stop that potentially, and certainly has at least raised awareness among Latino voters across the country. And this coincided, Lindsay, real quick, with the release of Harris's Puerto Rican sort of policy that she presented last night, timing it to this event, having a feeling that perhaps this might be part of why Trump was in New York to begin with, was to target the city and the region's broader Puerto Rican voting population. It was endorsed by entertainers like Jennifer Lopez, Ricky Martin, and Bad Bunny. That helped amplify it as well. So it's a Trump stumble that the Harris team is exploiting and was able to exploit pretty quickly.
So Finn, Trump is campaigning in Georgia. It's his 10th time in the battleground state. What tone is he striking on the heels of the MSG rally?
A defined one. I think he's still focusing on his two main critical issues at the heart of his campaign, which is immigration and inflation.
Your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage.
See this? This is
their defense for what happened yesterday.
The comedian wasn't the only person to speak at the rally to make a splash, so to speak. Let's go ahead and play part of this from Stephen Miller, Trump's top immigration advisor.
Who's going to stand up and say the cartels are gone, the criminal migrants are gone, the gangs are gone, America is for Americans and Americans only?
America is for Americans is rhetoric that might be reminiscent for some of KKK pamphlets of yesteryear. What is your reaction?
So what the Trump campaign always does with this supremely harsh rhetoric is puts it in a larger context of immigration, talking about cartels. No one in this country is in favor of criminal cartels, not small, not medium, not large. But that rhetoric itself separates that if you listen carefully. America is for Americans. Well, who decides who an American is? Trust me, those who work closest with former President Trump, if they return to the White House and the Department of Homeland Security and Border Patrol and ICE, they will make those determinations. They will decide who an American is and who American isn't. And when the president talks about the larger danger to America coming from within our country than externally, you put those two things together, you have something that many voters will ponder as they come to the decision about where to vote and who to vote in this election.
Major Garrett, really enjoyed your panel at the end of America Decides. Thanks for sticking around for the Daily Report.
Sure.
You can watch Election Night with